Do we need a timer or anything? Or?
Nope.
All right.
Gonna have to project so they can hear.
What's that? Project so I can do. Yes, of course.
Because you got that sound that's gonna be picked
Sure
up.
do. All right. So, in the early 20th century, Aleister Crowley reconceptualized the definition of magic to incorporate Eastern, Western, and his own schools of thought. I believe, in my paper, I argue that magic can be used as a metaphor to view organizational communication. That is, that if we view organizations as magicians, it will allow us insights into the practical implications, practical techniques and ways of increasing the efficiency of organizational communication within an organization. So to give some context to this, when I'm talking about organizations, I'm talking specifically about social organizations. That is, groups of people who abide by socially constructed rules in order to achieve a particular goal. So within that, organizational communication refers to the exchange of information amongst this organization that influences those socially established rules, so to guide the behavior. So Gareth Morgan argues that all organizational communication theories are essentially metaphors where we are comparing an organization to something else. And by doing this, we get the benefit of pulling out features within the organization which we may normally just gloss over. It brings salient to certain features that are salient within the metaphor. However, it's a double-edged sword because by doing this we're also simultaneously suppressing certain characteristics. But in accordance with this, I believe that magic can be a metaphor which is useful because it brings salient certain features within organizations as well as techniques of how we could incorporate these features. So, now that I've given a little bit of that context, allow me to give a background on what magic is in accordance to Aleister Crowley. So, Crowley's definition of magic is the art and science of causing change to occur in conformity with will. So, in conformity with will means with a purpose, at an end. So, in a way, what I am saying right now is a magical act. My will is to teach you about my paper. So I am causing change by talking and thus performing a magical act of teaching you about my paper. So magic has two main objectives, or can be used to accomplish two objectives. The first objective is to discover one's true will. That is, what is your purpose? What is your ultimate purpose in life? The next one is to, how do I accomplish my true will? Now that I've discovered it, how can I go about acting the ways in which I would accomplish it? So, now I'm going to get to my findings. So this is why I believe magic can be useful. Crowley advocates three different techniques which can be used in terms of magic to discover and accomplish your true will. The first of which is journaling. Journaling is essentially reflection, intensive reflection on yourself. So by reflecting on yourself, you are, by extensive reflection upon yourself, you are discovering your own true will. And once you get the idea of what your true will is, then you can reflect on whether your actions are actually working in a way to achieve your true will. Now, this sounds like standard reports within an organization, reflecting on behaviors that you have participated in, seeing if you're achieving your main goal at the end. The difference is that Crowley advocates the Kabbalah, which is the tree of life, which is the alphabet of magic. So just as the English alphabet is a set of 26 finite symbols, the Kabbalah is a set of 32 finite symbols which can be stacked and rearranged to derive meaning. So by journaling through this language of the Kabbalah, it makes us realize how much of our experience is categorized by our language. And so by incorporating the Kabbalah, we can expose problems which maybe we wouldn't have seen through our limits within the English language. So we can incorporate this separate set to expose problems that we wouldn't see, as well as devise solutions in ways that could be different than the limits of our language. So journaling, both in the English language and through this magical language of the Kabbalah, can result in different perspectives of problems and solutions. On top of that, so that's one technique. Another technique is rituals. So rituals, the idea of a ritual is a repeated pattern of behavior that you do consciously. So a ritual, for example, would be saying grace before eating supper. So Crowley has a ritual that's very similar to that. However, instead of thanking an external deity for the meal in front of you, it's a ritual which reminds you of your true will. So right before you eat, you say the short ritual, and the idea is that it turns this mundane, automatic task, which you normally just eat, but it turns that task into a reminder of, I am eating to fuel my body to achieve my true will. So I think this can incorporate into the organizational setting, because if we take these normally mundane tasks such as clocking in, we can maybe do a little ritual beforehand which reminds us that our goal as an organization is to inspire innovation. So take these tasks and incorporate our own rituals which we create, which have their own meaning, to kind of remind the employees what the overall goals are. So we have journaling and rituals. The final technique that I want to talk about is invocation. So invocation in the old sense is invoking a god into you. So it's almost summoning or channeling a god and becoming a god. So even though Crowley's conception of magic allows for that belief that you are actually channeling a god, ultimately what it is drawing in, it is walking a mile in someone else's shoes. Walking a mile within the shoes of a story. So by invoking a story, we essentially are becoming sympathetic to a storyline, and the point with invocation, Crowley argues, is to become sympathetic to a storyline that is external that is different than what we have. So that sounds a little confusing, but to elaborate. So say you are having a day where you just are not motivated and you're not disciplined and you just can't keep your mind focused or anything. Well, then what you can do is you can perform an invocation ritual of the Egyptian god Isis, which kind of represents discipline. And what you do is you would tell her story, and you would be the role of Isis as she is gathering Osiris's body, which would take discipline. And by performing this ritual of Isis, you can incorporate, you can pull out that trait of discipline within yourself, and thus balance out yourself and work as a way to achieve your true will. So those are three different techniques: journaling, ritual, and invocation. So in conclusion, magic is a big body of knowledge. There's a lot of potential of different ways you can approach it. And ultimately, though I'm not advocating necessarily using Crowley's specific rituals or specific invocations or anything like that, I think the fundamentals of it are ultimately symbolic constructionism. And it's the idea of surrounding ourselves by symbols which we ascribe meaning to purposefully. And we ascribe this meaning to remind us of achieving our true will in the end. So this is why I think that using the metaphor of organizations as magicians ultimately could allow us to come to effective strategies for ways to constantly remind people working within an organization what their true will is and how to get about accomplishing that.